All right, another 8 p.m., another Monday, and another quick bites with HR bites. Things haven't changed. A little bit has. We tried experimenting with the countdown, and then we thought, no, let's just do it the real way, the unfiltered way. So, therefore, that 15 seconds of syncing YouTube, Insta, and of course, LinkedIn. Um, today's conversation is going to be a conversation which is going to be different. At least that's the way I look at it. It's going to be a different conversation because it's going to be with someone who believes and does a lot of work in the space which is very, very close to my heart. It's going to be with someone who has a lot of common interests, who has actually met some people who I wish before I die I end up meeting because they continue to inspire us. I hope they inspire you as well. The likes of Simon Sinek, Adam Grant, of course, it'll be a delight having them on the show one day. But what better when you don't get the person directly, you get someone who's met the person. But that's not the reason why the person's here. My guest tonight is someone who I believe has said yes to come on this show in the shortest time possible. I think there have been people who've said, Sahil, tell me what the show is about. And we'll think about it, or we'll check our calendar, or of course, we can't say no to you, but we'll figure out semantics. But this individual said yes in less than 30 seconds. If you want to find out more, and of course, I definitely want to bring this to you to know why she said yes in less than 30 seconds, put your hands together for my guest tonight, Nancy Katyal. Nancy, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for being on Quick Bites with HR Bites.
What a heart-centered introduction, Sahil. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Nancy, I know you're traveling. I know you travel for work. I know you're in a city different from your base location. And in spite of everything, you still made time for this. That just goes to show the kind of lady that you are, the kind of professional that you are. Truly, truly appreciate.
Thank you. I couldn't miss an opportunity to have this conversation with you, Sahil.
Brilliant. Um, so while you and I were briefly discussing what is it that we should talk about, I think what naturally gravitated was let's talk about heart-centered conversations, right? And come to think of it, right? We know people who talk from their head, very cerebral, very intellectual. They make sense. They're very well read. And at times people feel intimidated that, oh my God, this person just knows so much. And when will I ever be like this person? And then there's someone else who comes up and connects with you right at the heart and makes you feel nice, makes you feel special, makes you feel heard, makes you feel wanted, makes you feel, why did we not meet earlier? And then we also have people who do man ki baat. So from man ki baat to dimag ki baat to dil se baat, right? I think we're going to explore some of this, but let me get your opening thoughts on if you had to break this down for us, given the work that you do in this space, how would you differentiate from a person who speaks from their brain or their head most of the time to people who love to have heart to heart conversations to people who generally have man ki baat, right? Apni man ki ya kisi aur ke man ki baat, but man ki baat. Let's stay with that. What are your thoughts,
Yeah,
Nancy?
interesting you say that, Sahil, that head oriented people and heart oriented people. I think head and heart are not vis-a-vis. They are not in competition with each other. They are actually best friends. I
Wow.
would say that mind is actually the sound box of your heart. It amplifies. Sometimes when your mind is cluttered, then mind may not really listen to what's going on in the heart. So I would say that actually mind has a lot of information that it gets from heart. Only thing is that how thoughtful we are when we are thinking, because I feel that there is a difference between thinking and thoughts. Thoughts तो आते रहते हैं, there are fleeting. They keep coming. They are uninvited guests. Whereas thinking, I personally feel, is about how mindful or thoughtful we are. So I would say that mind and heart are not in fight with each other. It's just that how do we orient, because mind has a lot of information that comes through heart. So we need to become friends like with them to really understand what's going on for us.
Brilliant. I love the way you put this, right? For the longest time, I always thought that it is mind versus heart. And you're saying it's no longer mind versus heart, but it's actually mind and heart, which is so nice
Yeah.
because you're saying that when they become friends, they're actually complementing each other rather than just contrasting each other. Is that what you really mean to say?
Absolutely. Let's say you have a thought, or let me take my example. Let's say I have a thought about someone whom I think, oh my God, this person is so selfish, and my thoughts are like hovering over my mind. But if I really, really ask my mind, hey, what's going on? And really listen to my heart is longing to be heard. So it's about really saying, hey, mind, like literally asking, what's going on? What information you have for me? And our thoughts are actually a gateway to our needs, like what's important for us. But then, like you said, that we are conditioned to think that they are versus each other. They are almost like having a battle, who will win. Actually, they are not against each other. They are really saying that, hey, buddy, let's come together. And that's where understanding happens. I was just sitting with myself and I was just thinking that let's look at the word understanding. I look at it like standing under. When two people are standing under something, they have understanding. But when they are opposite, they don't have understanding. So that's what, when mind and heart come under and stand there together, there will be understanding between them too. That's how I see it, Sahil.
Beautiful. And I want to spend some more time on this because now you're getting me very intrigued. Um, in the chicken and the egg, what came first? When Nancy is talking with me today and to everybody else who's listening in live, is Nancy talking from the head or from the heart? And how does Sahil know whether Nancy is talking from the head or from the heart?
What if I say that there is no difference? I
Both.
would say, yeah.
Okay. Say more.
So, so what I would say is about being grounded. I'm listening
Hmm.
to your words as a gateway to what's important for you. When I'm listening to your
Hmm.
question, I don't see it as why is asking that. I see it as an information. Like, for example, you're seeking clarity when you're asking me this question. So when I really listen to you, then I would be present fully to what you're asking me, and then I will not focus on where is it coming from. I'll be so centered to listening to what you are saying, and then the difference would not be visible. It will be transient.
Sure. Nancy, can you break this down for us? How do you know that Sahil is asking because he wants clarity, or Sahil is asking in a room full of people because he wants to be the smart one saying, hey, I have an intelligent question. Or maybe he just wants to put Nancy down and therefore he has an ulterior motive. How can you differentiate between the fine art of realizing what's the intent behind what is being said?
Love that. So let's take your example that you gave. I know it's a hypothetical example. Let's say we are having a conversation right now, and there is a thought that comes to your mind. Oh my God, what is she saying? And then, without even me realizing, their mind goes into a chatter. Oh my God, is she making sense or not? And then, without you even realizing, there is an enemy image that gets created in your mind when you are having this conversation. Now let's sit with that and say, see, where is it coming from? So if I ask you that when, let's say, there is an image that is created in your mind, what are you really seeking when you don't like somebody? That's a question I'm asking. Let's say you don't like me, what I'm saying right now, and it doesn't connect with you. What what is it about what I'm saying that doesn't connect? What are you really needing, longing when there is a disconnect with anybody? Right now we are taking my example.
Huh.
Yeah. So
I
beneath
think,
that, everything
yeah.
anybody does is
Hmm.
actually to fulfill a need or what's important to them. So when I don't like somebody, there is an underlying need. I really need to
Yeah.
go into the deeper layers to really understand what's going on for the other person.
Right. But Nancy, maybe this has nothing to do with you. Maybe it is a lot to do with me. Maybe it's to do with my self doubt. Maybe it's to do with the imposter syndrome that I have made my friend. It could be any of those, right? So, how does Nancy get to know that Sahil is in a dilemma that has nothing to do with her, but maybe a lot to do with himself, that he or she, in that case, any person, needs to address rather than the outburst, subtle or provocative, that could be addressed towards Nancy? How does one figure that out?
Yeah, so before I answer to how does one figure out, there is a difference between stimulus and cause. I can trigger you, but I'm not the cause of your trigger.
Hmm.
Trigger happens inside of me. So Nancy is not the trigger. And as you said, there's something going on for Sahil. Let's say when we are communicating, I feel a disconnect. Sahil is not really responding to me. I can only make a guess. It's Sahil who has the information. I can just say, make my guesses, which I also call empathy guesses, to say, Sahil, I'm really, really wanting understanding here, and I have a guess that something is going on for you. And maybe it could be something that I did or say. Could you share what's going on for you, Sahil? And Sahil only can give, because I can be a stimulus of what I said, and that triggered something in you. I'm not the cause. Cause happens within us. And that's for me to check with Sahil. And that understanding comes in because you know if the conversation is not going in a connected way, but it's going somewhere else. And you can sense that there is, I wish I could give you three P's for this. It's that's why it's called that's why it's called heart centered. You're really with the person and you can sense. Haven't you seen that when somebody is not listening to us, we can just get a sense that they're not listening?
Immediately make out. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then even if I tell you there are three layers of listening, we know it. We know it. Small kids do that. When I'm on the laptop and typing, the kid will go, listen. And I'm like, no, I'm listening. They're like, no, you're not listening. And I'm so glad you're asking this, Sahil. It touches a deeper layer in me that I need to see if we are disconnecting that. Is it life serving and really, really being centered enough to check with you? Hey, Sahil, I really want to have more connection with you and what's going on. Could you tell me? And if Sahil says, nothing, nothing, it's about you should know. And I would say that, yeah, maybe we can come back. And I would like to have more fruitful, meaningful conversations, Sahil, whenever you're ready. So you check willingness also, if Sahil is ready to
Absolutely.
have that
Yeah.
conversation.
So, Nancy, I think I'm absolutely ready to have a very meaningful conversation with you. And I want to ask you, what's the one belief about yourself that has held you back or that holds you back even today? And how do you really embrace it? How do you challenge it? So, it could be something in the past that you dealt with, a belief that held you back, or if you're comfortable sharing, even today, something that's holding you back, and how do you embrace it? How do you challenge it?
I
Anything you'd
love
like to
that
share?
inquiry. I love that inquiry. In my profession, I'm also a coach, Sahil. So what happens is empathy, empathetic presence is something that we are trained to really be grounded in that. And another pillar, which is very important for me, is honesty. And honesty needs timing, in my experience. There have been situations where I was honest because I thought that it'll build more connection, and actually it created disconnection. So I check for timing. And I think if there's something that sometimes I'm a little cautious of, is to really check if my honesty would be held with care and with compassion. And that's where sometimes I see that I hold myself because I feel that the other person may not have the willingness to hear my truth. And I really value honesty, but I'm aware that it's a choice. It's not a must. It's not a should.
Absolutely. I think, at the back of the Champions Trophy, while of course our country won the Champions Trophy, I love the sportsmanship that the Kiwis brought across, right? Phenomenal. Just the way they went across and congratulating everyone. You could see the difference in body language when someone genuinely wishes for the other team well, that the boys played better and therefore it's okay. Maybe we have lessons for next time, versus someone in their heart of heart thinking that, oh, that was a wrong decision, or maybe we didn't play that well, so on and so forth, right? And I think many a times when leaders are on the field, a sense of ego gets to them, a sense of pride gets to them. How does one really differentiate between humility and self sabotage?
That's such a powerful question. It can show up in your relationships, I would say. And if it's a self-reflection thing, right? So I'm trying to understand your questions coming from how does one know that we are coming from ego and self-sabotage, right? Or are you saying that
Yeah.
I need to give feedback to the other person? So it can be both. So I'll
No,
answer the
it's about
first.
self. It's about self. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. You're absolutely right, Nancy.
Absolutely. So I would say that let's say 99% of the time other people are wrong and other people are wrong and I'm right. 99% of the time I'm only 1% wrong. That's how most of us in difficult situations act up. But in 1%, if I'm really really honest with myself, I'll have a look around in three domains of my life: my personal relationships, my professional relationships, and my social relationships. If I'm having a problem in my personal life, it could be that two people are not gelling together because of value difference. But if I'm not gelling with my boss, with my colleagues, with peers, well, it could be a coincidence. But if you're not gelling with your social life also, then you are the common denominator. So you know that you are doing self sabotage, and also there is some ego in us that is not willing to accept the truth of what is present in the moment, and also not realizing that there is a deeper layer to what I'm wanting, but the way we ask is guaranteed to not give us what we truly desire. So I think it's more of a self connection process to really call our own bluff and see. It's like, Sahil, when we dress up, we look into the mirror, right? And I
Yeah,
say that the world is our mirror. When somebody gives you a difficult feedback, we need to really check. We all co create. So that's how I would see it.
beautiful. And as you speak of the mirror, it actually gets me to think that today we see so many Gen Zs, and I don't want to generalize, I see this across generations. A lot of people with the whole mobile phone, with the way our social fabric of society is changing, with the kind of divorces that are playing out, we generally see that a lot of people have trust issues, right? But how is it that one can start trusting themselves a lot more? Because anyway, there is a trust deficit on the other side. And as much as people don't look at the mirror and they say the world is the mirror, if I had to look at the mirror myself, how would I know that I'm not trusting myself enough, which is the cause of my trust issues?
Brilliant. I would say two things that are coming to my mind, and they are not my own. One is a Hindi shairi which came from somebody from Bollywood, which said, "जब हम खुद से नाराज होते हैं ना, तो हम दुनिया से नाराज होते हैं." And second that is coming to my mind is, if you don't heal what hurt you, if you don't heal what hurt you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you. And as much as it can be nerve wracking, but really, really sitting with ourselves and really owning our 1%. I tell people, okay, start with your 1%. If it's 99% outside, what's your 1% that you can start with? And I love when you said about the mirror thing and about the Gen Z. It's really, really asking ourselves, what is beneath my defense? What is the desire that is not getting fulfilled, and what would it take for me to really get an entry point to speak my truth in a way that it can be held? We were not taught all these things in school. We were either it was like either or, either I'm honest or I'm not. If I am honest, then I will not belong, so it's better not to be honest. It's not
Right.
either or. I can be honest
Yeah.
and belong. I can keep quiet and still belong. And fitting in is not same as belonging. And I think what we are seeing in the world is this really vicious circle of fitting in. But I would say that we are really longing for spaces where we can belong and be accepted for who we are, really. And that's what people are searching for. And the truth really is to see in the mirror and say, buddy, what's going on?
Right. Beautiful. Very, very nice. And since you come from the space of coaching, the space that we've created so far, how does the whole concept of shadows play out in the aspect that you just spoke about in terms of reflections?
I feel like you are already well aware about all these concepts. And shadow, I mean, we can spend entire days, such a deep concept, right? um, there are moments, Sahil, for me as a coach, where sometime when my coach is sharing something, it triggers me. And in that moment, how does one shift my attention to be client centered and not making it about me, and really seeing that, hey, my attention drifted, and that calls for more groundedness. And I'm glad you're asking that, because there are parts of us, a part of me is present, but a part of me is conflicted. And in that moment, can I catch myself and say, there you go, come back? And I think it requires lot. It's an ongoing process, and I'm so glad, Sahil, you're bringing that. We all have a shadow side to us, and when somebody triggers us, it's a side that really needs healing within us, and that's a lifelong journey. I'm glad you asked that.
I think, talking about lifelong journeys, we've been hearing it in the news of late so often, and many leaders from different organizations have been voicing their thoughts about the whole paradigm of work life, right? And they are tangibilizing it to the number of hours that one should put in. I think there's a very strong message behind the quantification. I think we are somewhere missing it. But for a minute, let's just talk about work life. Let's talk about balance. How does one set boundaries without feeling guilty? I think, during COVID, we are to blame that we got our office into our homes and everything started blurring, because earlier you had geography to distance the two. You would step out of your house, whether your office was 5 minutes away or whether it was 1 hour away, whether it was that drive with that music or solo time, or whether it was picking up three colleagues along the way and gossiping, or whether it was the sutta break that you couldn't smoke at home but you could smoke in the car. It was that space that allowed for a disconnect between work and life, or work and home. But as these boundaries blurred, I think a lot of people who have been talking to me, a lot of people who have been reaching out, have come up with a specific challenge, which is where my question comes from. How do you set boundaries without feeling guilty? I'm a mother, but at the same time, I'm also a professional. I'm a father, but at the same time, I'm a primary caregiver. How do you balance?
And you are asking this question to me, it warms my heart even more. Sahil, I would say that first is clarity about how we view boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, boundaries are doors. So, for people to really understand that when I create a boundary, is it like a wall which people can see that, oh my God, I cannot enter? I see boundaries at doors where I'm saying that, hey, buddy, right now, I need some time for self care. This door will open. It's not that it will be closed, but right now, it requires for me to really take care of myself. It's like filling my own cup. When I'm filled with love, I will have a better capacity to give it to you or to anybody else. And also, when it comes to saying no, again, always seeing this as, when I say no, I'm saying yes to something else. And what am I saying yes to? For example, when somebody, let's say, asks me that, hey Nancy, what are you doing this Saturday? And I say that dreadful word, nothing. And I've said it now. And say, oh, you're doing nothing. All right, let's catch up. And in that moment also, I can catch myself. People feel that if the word has gone out of my mouth, now it's done. No, I'm a human being, and I can say that, hey, I did catch myself saying nothing, and sharing the context. We always should try to say no to the request, not to the person. For example, let's say, Sahil, you invited me, and instead of saying, Sahil, I cannot go out with you, like, what? You cannot go out with me? I would say, first, really validate Sahil's request. So, first is acknowledging. I would say that, Sahil, thanks for asking me. I would love to have connected with you over coffee. And then saying no to the request. And genuinely, I know Amitabh Bachchan said no is a complete sentence, but people who are building their muscle for saying no, it takes some time. So, saying
Yeah,
no because. So, I would say that, Sahil, I've been really wanting to spend some time with myself, and I'm torn as I say no to you. Would it be okay to say no this time? And just saying, would it
beautiful,
be okay to say no this time? And third
beautiful.
would be to say, to check, and not leaving it like that. And if connection is important for you, you would you would raise another connection request, and I would say, Sahil, I just want to check with you. How is it for you to hear that? And Sahil will give me the information. And Nancy, you are this. Then I would say, oh, thanks for sharing. It didn't land the way I intended to. I really value our connection, Sahil. And my intention is to take care of me so that when I show up with you, I am not acting in a haphazard manner. I'm totally present to your friendship. And who would say that? No, 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 you don't be present. Come, come, come. Even if you're not present, come, we'll have a conversation.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Interesting. We have a couple of people in the live audience as well who've tuned in. So we would love to hear from you. How do you say no? What are some of your strategies, approaches just to say no? So anyone who's listening in live, you can comment on the comment box, and we would love to hear from you as well. But as we continue this conversation, Nancy, I think I want to pick from where you left, right? Imagine Nancy is having coffee with Sahil, but Nancy is physically present but not available. And that's the worst thing, right? At the same time, we also have a lot of people in our lives who drain our energy, who we just can't avoid, who we just can't say no to. They could be family, they could be the maid servant, they could be a boss at work, they could be colleagues who you have to work with day in and day out. How do you handle people who drain your energy and you're conscious of the fact that they're draining your energy? What's the best strategy? Is it to sit them down, have a conversation? Is it to deflect? Is it to avoid? Is it to just fill your cup a lot more, thinking that half my cup is going to get drained today, so let me overpour my cup? What do you think works best?
First, I would sit with myself and really ask myself that when I say this person drains me, what feelings do I experience? So it's not just draining. It could be I feel tired, I feel overwhelmed. When I feel overwhelmed, what would I want from this person that I feel drained? Maybe I'm wanting some support that this person cannot give. So it's like a wrap. So it's like vicious circle, right? So the thought, the feeling, and need. So then the need comes in. I really want support. Oh, I don't think so. Sahil can give me this support. I'm just taking your example so that it's
Sure.
easy for people to relate.
I
Not
get it.
that. So let's say Sahil cannot give me support. Oh, what is the judgment that is coming? Oh, Sahil cannot give me support. Oh, that's why I think he's draining. Is it really that he's not giving me support? He's draining or something else? Oh yeah, I know that he keeps on and talking about himself. He doesn't give me space. So he's draining because he only talks about himself. What does it make me feel? It makes me feel confused that, and what I really need collaboration. Okay, Sahil is not giving me collaboration. Till the time I reach a level where I really know what is it about this connection that is draining me. And I think when I can come to that point, then I can really make choices from our need awareness. I believe the more aware we are about what is important for us, then we make choices and have more choices. I generally say that conflicts don't happen at needs level. For example, Sahil, if I ask you, do you value support and collaboration in the way you work with people? What would you say? Yes or no?
Of
You'll say,
course.
what is it? Of course. So I also value
It's a
that.
given.
However,
Yeah.
in organizations, manager says, I need efficiency, and the employees also saying, but sir, I am also giving you efficiency. So at needs level, there is no fight. It's at the level of
Right.
strategies. And I tell people that when you are going and having a conversation with someone, when they you said drain you, really we need to understand what is important for me. Maybe their strategy of how they reach out to me is not working for me. Then I have to make a choice. Friendship is a choice,
Hmm.
relationship is a choice, and it has to come from a space of being centered. And then I can have a
Hmm.
conversation with you and to say that, hey, we both want efficiency, Sahil. And I'm really wondering, is there the only way that you are asking me to do something about that is not working? Can we figure out some other ways? Because I really want to honor your efficiency need as well. And I think the conversation shifts. We are only fine. I can't do it like that. This is my way. But starting from really what's important, and I think it shifts the conversation. We are more focused on what's important, like I said, standing under rather than standing apart.
Nancy, I must compliment you. Just the manner in which you crafted this story about Sahil was so beautiful from one thing to another to another to another. I think that's a brilliant, you're a great storyteller, I must say. Very, very nice.
Thank you for creating the safety, Sahil, that I can take your example because I know that you will understand that my intention is to make it more relatable for people. When we pick characters, it makes more sense to people, and you know that it's not about you. So that really warms my heart. Thank you.
Beautiful. Let's just shift gears to maybe the personal space, right? We've spoken about how professionally colleagues can be draining or environments can be draining. But do you believe on the personal side, love and respect can exist without agreement?
Hmm. So first is that
And you know where I'm
agreement.
getting at. The look on your face
Absolutely.
exactly told me you know where I'm getting at.
Absolutely. And Sahil, I would give you an example of a parent and child. And
Sure.
I can shift it to spouse relationship in a bit as well. Now, when you say under agreement, sometimes I have seen that parent and child are almost having a debate, but you agreed with me that you will clean, and the kid is like, no, I don't want to do it, but you agreed. And the agreement for a child came from a space of powerlessness. And as much as we
Hmm.
like it or not, as a parent, I have a power, which is a role power, as long as
It
my
could
kid
also
is
be
dependent.
fear. Sorry, Nancy, sorry to interrupt, but it could also be fear in the child's mind.
Yeah, absolutely. That
Not
I am
necessarily
dependent.
powerlessness. Powerlessness could be one aspect. And the second aspect that could be driving that action could also be a lot of fear to say, in case I don't do this, then mommy is going to go crazy, or she's going to hit me, or she's going to go berserk. And therefore, it's the fear that also drives action in a child's mind, right?
Absolutely. And that comes from a paradigm of power over. I'm a parent. I have certain powers, if you will, which I can really tell the kid that I'm not going to give you your video game. I'm not going to take you outside. So it is power over. And a kid is really saying that I'm a human being. You're a human being. You have a role of a parent. I want power with, where my needs matter as yours. And that's where, because agreements didn't come from a place of shared reality, it came from a space where the kid felt, oh my God, like I said, there is fear. What will happen? Uncertainty, right? And similarly in relationships, also, if I look at whether it's friendships or at home, whatever in laws or whatever laws you want to bring in, there also all the dynamics is that the agreement is not explicit, it's not specific. It comes from, do you agree? Ha, ha, ha. It's coming not from really understanding that is the person has the capacity to really agree to what you want. And also everybody has limits. What you like, the way you like, may not be the way the other person likes. And I think that's why heart centered conversation, the heart is really to go at the heart of it. And that requires effort. That's not a two-way step process, or I will change your life in 9-day process. It requires a lot of conversation.
I think, Nancy, while we're living in a world that's so brittle, that allows us to put filters on pictures that make us look amazing on Instagram, or moments that really let us hide how we feel and not be as centered as we want to, because we jump from one moment to another moment to a third moment. So even before we have processed it, we are actually fooling our mind to say next, 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 right? Or this lovely jargon that I say of being corporate overworked, and you immerse yourself so much in work that the personal side doesn't really end up bothering because you're not able to process it. To social structures actually breaking down because everything has become so brittle, right? Your way or my way or the highway, so on and so forth. How does one know when to walk away from a relationship when it's no longer serving you? What is that threshold? And I know this is a very, very subjective question. Everybody will have a different take on it because everybody's threshold is different, everybody's value system is different, everybody's upbringing may be different. But Generally speaking, or what is Nancy's point of view? How does one know when to walk away from a relationship when it's no longer serving you?
Yeah, and I like you said that it's subjective because it is also value driven. I would say that there are certain core values that drive us who we are, and that's what makes us unique. That's why I say that's so Sahil, that's so Nancy, that's so Ishita. That's because that's the, and I generally say this, that our government has given us Aadhaar card so that we know and we reminded that we are unique. That's unique identification number. So coming back to your question, when do I know it's time to walk away? When every time I bring in a conversation or I initiate a conversation, I am not heard. It comes from an energy that is not life serving. I'm It's almost the other person is saying that that's not how it happened. My observations are not even acknowledged. I'm not using the word validated, acknowledged. And yeah, and I'll see every day that's going on. And second is my inputs are taken, but there's nothing done about that. There are certain rights that in the process of relationship they are taken away from me. There is an emotional quality that we value in relationship. There are microaggressions. I can just say yeah, or that's it. And I might just say, oh, I didn't do anything. So, really seeing what's the emotional quality I really desire in a relationship when I'm having a conversation. And also, there is a research which said that if you talk to a plant in a negative way every day, it dies. But if you talk to a plant every day with lovely words, it grows. And
Yeah.
environment does play an important role. So I really want to check with myself and really truth, which is not coming from defense, which is coming from my inner reality of every day. How safe do I feel in this relationship? How valued I feel with myself, not validation. And how safe do I feel to be honest in this relationship? And if every time I'm really tiptoeing, then I really need to take a call. Where is it coming from?
I think, Nancy, you took me back to school days of the touch me not plant, right? How it really plays out. And I've also read about this that when you talk to plants in a very harsh manner over a period of time, they end up dying. Similarly, our body also reacts to a lot of stimuli that comes our way. What is the body's first sign to really showcase that the individual is stressed? Because we've seen a lot of people either end up taking up their lives, and I don't think this happens overnight. I think this is a culmination of multiple conversations that didn't happen or didn't happen with the right people, right? So how does one nip it in the bud to say, I don't think something's okay with me? The colloquial term can be I'm depressed because it's fashionable to use it, but keeping that aside, how does one identify that गाड़ी ठीक से नहीं चल रही?
I think our body is the first signal of our emotions, which is, do I feel contraction and tightness in my body? You must have noticed that when we take a roller coaster ride, we can really see our heart rate going up and down. And also in situations, let's say somebody who's not comfortable with public speaking, I have often seen people use words like butterflies and so on. There are no butterflies literally, but what they're really saying is there's some contraction going on, some tightness that I experience in my body. And I think we are not taught how to scan our body. And one of the things one can do is to, if it's possible, I think bathroom is the safest place where nobody stops you from going. So just excuse yourself, go there and just close your eyes and to really check, hey, what's going on? Which part is heavier? Which part is lighter? And wherever the part is heavier, it has an information. And expansion is a sign that life is serving us. So that's the first sign. And I feel that when we ground ourselves, I tell people when they're doing Zoom call and they feel nervous that senior leaders would be present, please don't fold your legs and sit on the chair and not place them on the ground, because when you really place them on the ground and really feel your feet, you may feel centered. And it's an ongoing practice, right? It's not like, it's like building muscles, right? You don't
Must.
pick 20 kgs in the gym on the first day. It's slowly and gradually. So your body gives you a signal, but we have not attuned ourselves to listen to our body. So that's the first thing, because like, what's going on? I can't really feel. So really checking with ourselves. Even throat, have you seen that sometimes in a conversation literally people go, and it requires noticing. It
Yeah.
requires noticing. Or sometimes I have noticed myself shifting in the chair, right? And so just noticing, bringing our awareness. And I think that's the first step. When I'm centered, it's not that I'll not move, but the movement would not be. Or
Yeah.
have you seen people tapping their feet? Now, of
Tapping.
course, there are several videos. People are saying, "Oh, that's great for BP and all that." I mean, keeping that aside, for
They're
BP, it
taking it to
might
another
be,
level. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then just checking in. And really, I think two questions that can guide people are, what am I feeling? What do I need? Or what's important to me? And really
Yeah.
making it a practice, and that can really become a gateway. And I think when you talk about a sensitive issue like people taking away their lives, and I think it's related to shame and guilt. Shame and guilt really comes from the space, if you really go beneath it, people really are longing for love and belonging. And if you see that, shame actually makes people feel lonely. They feel that their truth will not be welcomed, and when it is seen in evidence in the environment time and again, then people feel helpless and they feel there's no other way out for life. And that's why we need safe spaces in organizations where people don't share truth because there is review coming up. People don't share truth because they feel that credit would be taken away. And I think that's why it's required for us that we shift our attention from the outcome. Our self worth is non negotiable, it is not attached to the outcome. If a project succeeded, the project succeeded. You are full as you are. If the project failed, the project failed. Nancy didn't fail. I think if we can really not attach our identity to the outcome, it can create shifts, but it requires difficult conversation with ourselves. And that's how we do it.
Yeah. It's very interesting, Nancy, that a lot of what you say takes me back in time. And it resonates so much because a couple of months ago, a couple of friends and I was sitting on a Friday evening, having a couple of drinks. And that's when this conversation came up. And you spoke about the washroom. So I'm going to take this conversation to the restroom. And the conversation there was to say that many organizations have these printouts of posh policies or the presiding officer or the names of the ICC members in the washroom. What's your take on that when someone is disturbed at work and they get to the washroom because they don't want anyone seeing you, or they're trying to center themselves, or they're trying to wipe their tears or get over the moment? Is this the place for someone to go there and look at that list and start trigger an emotion of thoughts? Is it a good thing to do? Is it not a good thing to do? We had a divided answer that evening, but obviously it was a group of friends sitting, obviously from the HR fraternity, different organizations. But what is Nancy's take on that? Is it um, helping someone get centered and get their balance back and therefore take action? Or is it more destructive than helpful?
I'm not an expert at Posh, but I can talk about the values that are displayed in organization on their walls. For example, honesty is our company's value, and I feel that values are verbs. It's an action. You see it in action, then people believe it. You can paste it on the wall if you will, but it won't make any sense. And also talking about why people are really considering restroom as a safe space, because they know that their emotions will not be valued. I've often heard this term: keep your emotion outside the office when you walk in. And then I'm wondering that in a review, when the boss is raising the voice and saying why the targets are not met, that's an emotion. Anger is an emotion. And if business has no space for emotion, then we should be rational. We are emotional beings who justify with logic. We might say that, oh, all the major decisions that we have taken in life, whether it's getting married or whether it's, coming out of a relationship, they are based on emotions. Because logic will tell us initially when there is a red flag. It's a popular term these days, or there is this like a warning signal to really say, hey, what's going on? But I don't speak. I wait, wait, wait. But our body tells us. You must have seen sometimes that somebody asks us to do something and immediately I say no. That's because it has reached a threshold that my body is only giving up. So I would say that in the organizations, I think it is actually a very, very deep rooted thing, Sahil. It's about culture and just making some policies, and where people of all genders and pronouns are not feeling welcome, then these are shoddy policies. And I think safety has to be in real time and not just as a wishy washy thing.
Absolutely. So I think, Nancy, while it's 15 minutes to 9, the nation still wants to know, we haven't got your verdict on whether one should put that thing up in the restroom or should not. Is it helpful to the cause, or is it just going to add to more complications when someone's trying to heal themselves? A
I would
poster
say
of, yeah,
poster off, please
a
complete.
poster of an ICC or the presiding officers or the names of ICC members or whatever.
So I would say that I have a yes and a no to that. Sometimes
Okay.
people don't even know that these things exist. So as far as awareness goes, if I see those names, maybe I'll muster the courage to say that yes, that name may not be resonant with me, but I know that, oh, there are people whom I can reach out. And
Sure.
second, no, if these names are only like the call center numbers whom you call and they never pick your call, then of course it's a problem. And when I call also and somebody says, you know how when we call a call center and they say, I understand where you're coming from, and they're really not understanding.
Mm,
And then they say, is there anything else that I can help you with? And I'm like, solve my problem first. So I think it's a
correct.
yes to say that it can act as a nudge for people to be reminded that, okay, these departments exist and I can reach out. And it's a no if it's just a to-do list and people don't see that in action. And I think
Got
trust
it.
is built through action.
Sure, sure. You've done a lot of work in this space of being centered, right? Um, can centering yourself, your thoughts, your emotions make even a mundane day for someone who's doing a repetitive job extraordinary? If yes, how? Because a lot of people outside would be doing their repetitive jobs, would be doing same stuff, or like they call it in jargon, right? Uh, New day, same shit, new day, whatever, right? How does one feel amazing of saying, today the sun is shining, I've got up from the different side of the bed, and today I'm going to make this the most amazing day of my life possible, or it's all gyan?
I would say being centered also means that today, if I'm not feeling happy, being centered doesn't mean that I'm happy all the time. Being centered doesn't mean that this feeling will be felt every day. Let's say happiness. Being centered means that I know that no feeling is final. Today, if I'm feeling angry, I really need to sit with my anger. Rather than saying I'm angry, I would say, this is anger. That's being centered. When I see and look at my anger and say, hey, anger, buddy, you're here. Tell me what information you have for me. And it doesn't, being centered also means that I'll mess up and I'll own up to that. Let's say I say something when maybe I was not in a full capacity, and so I said, I really want to share this with you, Nancy, and I said something which I regret. Being centered also means that when I really catch myself doing that, going back to Sahil and say, Sahil, I noticed that I raised my voice and said something that doesn't go with the values that I hold in our friendship, Sahil. I really value collaboration and I really value respect. And I saw that I was not in integrity with how I want to show up in my relationship, and I regret that. Now, that's also being centered. It's not about dismissing my feelings, it's about embracing. And I think that's centered. And I think I'm somebody who is really against this idea be positive all the time. We can't.
Mhm.
I think being
Yeah.
centered comes from a space of acknowledging I'm a human being and life happens and just sitting with that and embracing it fully and not putting it under the carpet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's very important, right? Every time putting up that filter saying life's amazing, we all know it's not amazing. We all have our highs, we all have our lows. I think, Nancy, a lot of people who don't come from the space that we do may find this entire conversation very fluffy, may find it very esoteric. Um, if I have to pick up a leaf from your life, what's the one lesson pain that has taught you something that today you appreciate a lot more? Give us something tangible, something that we can hook onto. What is that one lesson pain that has taught you something that you truly appreciate today, or that has brought across a shift in the way Nancy is today as compared to her younger self? You're still young, but your younger self.
I wish I had this real worthy trending statement that I can say and people can pick up. But I would genuinely say that pain, and I've said that before, that pain really invites you to go into the deeper layers. And I have seen that it has happened in my life where when I look back, I showed up in a way that I'm really not proud of. But when I look back, if that painful incident wouldn't have happened, it wouldn't have really helped me to get in touch with the person that I have become. So if I have to tell people when they're experiencing pain, two things that they can do with the pain is to tell the pain that you're welcome. I know you're a visitor. You have a message for me, visitor. What's the message? I'm ready to sit with you to really get the message. Second, embrace the message and take the learning from the message and put it into life. Otherwise, I'll go into the vicious circle. So, welcome pain. I love Rumi's poem Guest House. So, all the emotions are visitors in the guest house. Welcome them, and then they are guests, they'll leave.
Time for them to go then. Absolutely. Many a times, Nancy, people may just see you, meet you, and say, "Hey, Nancy, you're looking very off today." And you say, "No, but I'm okay. Yeah, it's just been a busy day. I'm slightly tired." And, maybe Nancy herself doesn't know that she's off, right? How does one really get in touch with that emotion of what is weighing you down? Sometimes we are holding on to things, maybe something that happened in childhood, maybe a conversation with someone in the morning, and we carry that on through the day because it's still playing at the back of our mind or in our subconscious. And that shows up when you interact with people, and people say, "You're looking off, you're not looking your normal self," whatever. How does one stop holding on to things that weigh us down?
So, I
One,
would
how do
say
you realize? And two, how do you then let go?
raising our self awareness, which is curiosity over control, truth over performance. We don't have to perform to be likable. Yeah. So, curiosity. I'll give you an example. I generally say
Hmm.
this that people, all of us are carrying an invisible backpack,
Hmm.
which has a lot of stuff, like how we go on hiking. It's very
Correct.
heavy when we pick it up, but then we get used to it and we keep going. It seems familiar, no? Similarly, all of us are carrying an invisible backpack, which has a lot of stuff. And sometimes to raise awareness of why I'm off, why others are picking up, because I'm so used to carrying my backpack that I'm not even aware that people are catching up. People are really good at catching things up, which we cannot say. We also call them blind spots. So sometimes really sitting with a backpack and see the items that needs to go in the trash can. And
Hmm.
with that, you really, really lower the weight of what you're carrying in the backpack. And then, like I said, curiosity over certainty, truth over performance, openness over outcome. And when we really look at that, just embracing. What happens is we all want to fight reality. Whatever is happening, we don't like that. And even if you fight, it's not going anywhere. So rather accept and say that, yeah, it's fleeting. It'll go. Nothing is permanent.
Yeah. Nancy, in the way the world is playing out and the war is happening and the socioeconomic things, there's Trump doing something there, there is Modi doing something here, there is a virus version popping up, there is digging happening, and every city is having a metro coming up, and there's so much pollution, there's AQI, हजार चीजें हो रही है, right? In all of this, a lot of people are also thinking, how do they just get over today? How do they live day to day, right? And because of that, many relationships also become very transactional. Now, my thoughts are revolving around the fact that some relationships very naturally become deep relationships, right? You met someone for the first time, it doesn't appear that you met them for the first time, or within a couple of weeks, you end up talking every day. They know what's happening in your life, what's not happening. You become very close. And some relationships, which you know for decades, are once in a year, I need to wish them happy birthday. And it just rests there, right? Because of the connection that you have. What's your take on transactional versus deeper relationships? Do you believe that every relationship needs to be a deep relationship that you invest in, or it's okay to have transactional relationships? And which are the relationships that you should actually invest in without the fear of saying, will I get ROI? Because not everything, my belief, you could have a different belief. My belief is not everything in life needs to be about ROI. So
Yeah.
what's your take?
So I'll answer the first part about transactional and deep. I would say that in business, there are transactions, but we cannot treat relationships as business. That's first. Second is to really check with myself that with these apps, blink it 15 minutes. We also feel that relationships can also have this blink it app, like relink it or something relationship app, I don't know. And
Swipe right.
relation, yeah. And it's like I want to have a conversation. My husband is not available to have a conversation. Okay, let's go on Insta. And then I see people sitting in the circles and saying, oh, we don't have deep relationships. And my answer to that would be, it starts with us. If we want more love in the world, am I giving more love? And I say that whatever is happening in the world is a mirror, it's a collective consciousness. As a society, we really need to look at what we have done. We can again have filters and say that everything is okay versus saying how I have contributed to this. So in the world where everything is online and with the click of button, relationships don't work that way. They require investment. And when I say investment, that means that if I have the courage to show up with my authenticity and be empathetic, then I'm setting an example for the other to do that as well. If I'm hiding away my truth, then the other person also doesn't have really an example to see what's going on. When it comes to transactional, there is limited energy we have. And I generally say that when people say I don't have time, what they're really saying is they don't have energy. To really
Hmm.
checking physical energy, what's the quantity of energy you have, mental energy, who are the people you were talking about draining, really checking, yeah, why I keep talking to the person if this person drains me. Third, social energy, what kind of social circle that you have. Then spiritual, what is your character? And really checking with myself. I tell people that if I can have an inner GPS and check with myself, then I say that you are not honest. Check with myself. Am I honest all the time? You don't listen to me.
Do I listen
Am
to
I
myself?
listening? Yeah. So I think
Yeah.
as much as, and many people tell me that, Nancy, oh my God, it all boils down to us. Yeah, because the only person I have control over is me. And the and the second control I have is over my breath.
Hmm.
I am breathing and we take it for granted. Now, when I'm saying this, there is a realization, yeah, I'm breathing. It's kind of natural, right? We don't even realize I'm breathing. So when we bring awareness to our breath, I tell people that when something going on, just bring your awareness to your breath and just breathe. It and breathing requires focus. And when we do that, we bring our awareness to the present. And that's what
Right.
is required. And my wish for the world is that if you want more safe spaces, be that safe space for someone. If you
For
want
someone.
that I don't feel people listen to me, listen to someone as if it's a gift. And that's how we do a ripple effect.
Right. Long back, I had attended the Landmark Forum, and that's why I recall, they had mentioned that there is this friend sitting here that keeps talking, the chatter in your head. And many a times the chatter becomes a great friend but many a times that chatter could also become an enemy. How does one really silence the inner critic? Because if you don't silence that inner voice, you're always going to be in this whole quest of challenging, am I doing the right thing? There's chaos. There's going to be an energy drain within. Forget someone else draining your energy. You're going to be draining your own energy because either you're overthinking or you're analyzing. Nancy didn't even say that, but I have received 10 versions of what Nancy has said, even though she never said it, let alone what she meant. So how does one silence? How do you reduce the volume?
First is don't believe everything you think.
Okay.
That's first. And second is, of course, there are a lot of techniques in neuro linguistic programming, NLP, where there are modalities where we can, when you said dim the light, to really check and really say that I really need to dim the color of this period of my life and brighten. What do I want to brighten in my life and bring that to my visual self? Like, really, as if you are seeing a movie screen, and what would you like to be played on the movie screen, and playing that again and again. And if you see something on the movie screen, think that you are having the remote control and dimming the colors and then brightening the colors of what you want. That's one. And second is whenever you feel that I know I shouldn't believe, but like I said, thoughts are uninvited guests. So, building our thinking muscle to say, I'm not listening to you, just go do your work. How do you know that's true? So, challenging our mind, really, really telling it, like, for example, oh my God, you messed up. You could have said this thing. How do you know that I'm messed up? Give me evidence. Come on, Nancy, give me evidence. And our brain will get into going on for the answer. So it's the questions that we ask. I think we have to build the muscle of asking good questions. Most of the time, we play along with this inner chatter and then we do pity party. We don't have to do pity party. We have to do a more reflective party. And that's how we bring more meaningful experiences in our life. And I'm very mindful of not using the word only joy, because meaningful sadness can be meaningful because it has information. Grief can be so meaningful. And I think that's why I said that there are no negative emotions. There are some unified emotions, and there are some emotions that are separating. Welcome them all.
Beautiful. So from pitter patter in childhood to pity party, I think we've really come a long way. But one last question, Nancy, before we wrap up. If you had to write a WhatsApp message to your teenage self, what would that WhatsApp message read?
Don't believe what others are saying about you. You have the inner wisdom and clarity that you need.
Beautiful. Short, sweet, and succinct. Thank you so much, Nancy. You've been a fantastic guest. I really, really enjoyed this conversation, heartfelt, centered, and so true. Something that you believe in, honesty. I think all your answers were straight from the heart and very honest. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's been watching in, who's been listening in live, and to everybody who is going to also listen into this video later on. Do leave your comments on the post, and Nancy and I will be very happy to respond even later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sahil, for having me. It was an enriching conversation. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Take care. Take care. Bye bye, everybody. See you next Monday on Quick Bites with HR Bites on yet another guest and yet another episode. Thank you so much, everybody.